Premium brand is a component of many things. We have around 5,000 customers that choose the 3M over. The successful of our brand is good work of team. 2018 we have concentrated our activity on the next level. The attention that we have on the prints and embroidering that we do on our apparel, to be able to keep 100% production in Italy. This, I think, is a mix that creates the successful of the brand. My goal is never stop innovation.
Good evening, everybody. It's been nearly 4 long months, but we are back here on Pit Lane TV for the second season of the European Endurance Championship, or EEC for short here, for the very first time on Le Mans Ultimate, of course. We have just had the end of the qualifying session. Christian Malguer, as you can see on the left-hand side, taking pole in Hypercar, ahead of Michele Rocon, Mika Hakimi, Roman Marchand, Gardinetto, Pastore, and Pedimpede, of course. Names you will all recognize from the last couple of seasons of the Esports Endurance Series, or EES, just a much longer championship in terms of the race length. So Christian Malguer, as you can say, 130.531, 3.5 tenths ahead of Michele Rocon. Mika Hakimi, champion a couple of seasons ago in EES. He is in third for Blue Steel Racing. Roman Marchand is fourth, just a tenth ahead of Francisco Gardinetto. Nicola Pastore is sixth, and Paolo Penimpede a tenth down, 1.5 seconds off pole in sixth. Then our GD3, it's another sim for him driver, Abel Sequeira, that has taken pole there, ahead of Carlo Dianda by 0.2 of a second. Luca D'Amelio, the Italian, is third, 0.4 off pole. Just behind him is Salvatore Zitello from Arms Serbra. Simona Rabiti is fifth. Michele Rizzo qualifies sixth. Marco Lodi Rizzini is seventh on the grid. Tobias Blumschein from Germany is eighth on the grid. Daniele Vidimari is ninth, and rounding out the top 10 is Manuel Norris. Completing the GD3 grid, we have Nicola Pagani in 11th. Frank van Ginneken is 12th. Pedro Ramada is 13th. Ricky Jimenez 14th, and 2 seconds off the pace. Not quite getting an amazing lap in, but still nonetheless lining up in 15th. And last on the grid is Andrea Gandosi, good old Tamelli ERT driver. So here we are at Portimao. Not a circuit that the drivers will be all that familiar from R Factor 2, but it is a mainstay of some of the more recent Formula 1 seasons, as well as the World Endurance Championship, hence his presence here. And it is certainly an interesting course in Portugal and off the coast of the Algarve. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13... I think 14 corners then to negotiate. As we see, yeah, Malguer, Rocon on the front row. Mika Hakim and Roman Marchand to make up row 2. On row 3 is Francesco Gardinetto and Nicky Pastore. Then on row 4, Paolo Penimpede, rounding at the rear of the hypercars. Abel Sequeira on pole position in GD3. Row 5 is Carlo Dianda and Luca D'Amelio. You see BMW versus Mustang. Row 6, Salvatore Zitello and Simona Rabiti, and I believe the first of the Lexus cars. Row 7, Michele Rizzo in the BMW with Marco Lodi Rizzini in another Lexus. Row 8, Tobias Blumschein in a Mustang with Daniele Vidimari in the black and gold Mustang for good company. Row 9, all BMWs. Manuel Norris ahead of Nicola Pagani in 18th. Then on row 10, we've got Frank van Ginneken in the Aston Martin with Pedro Ramada for good company. Ricky Jimenez in the BMW lines at 21st, with Andrea Gandosi 22nd, rounding out the field at the back of row 11. So interesting choices there. We can see the field riding over the crest. You see Ferrari, one Toyota in there. I believe that's Marchand in 4th place. All of our sim frames, you see Margera Rocon on the front row, favouring the Italian manufacturer. You see Team Shiba of, that's Gardinetto, I think, in 5th. As they ride the crest coming out of Galp. And it's going to be a rolling start here, of course, as you would expect in endurance racing. And Margera and Rocon will be sprinting away to see who can make it to the start first. We've got an hour and 15 minutes of action ahead of us here at Portimao. Our first Le Mans Ultimate event in this Italian Championship's history, or the European Championship, I should say. And we are underway now here at Portimao. Margera has made a monster start there, as we see weaving around in the background. Mika Hakimi trying to defend from Marchand, and now attacking Michele Rocon for P2. He's got the inside as they go towards Lagos. Turn 3. Can Mika Hakimi, the Malaysian driver, make it through into second place? Rocon trying to hold him at bay through turn 3, and Hakimi is almost forced off track there. That could allow Roman Marchand in the Toyota to have a go as they go on the long run into Torre Vip, and there we go. Marchand is through into 3rd place. There's bit of a dive in the background. That looked like the Arm Supercar trying to displace Gardinetto from 5th, but not quite able to do so. Meanwhile, GD3, it's getting very, very hectic, but Abel Secura has monstered his way away, 9/10 ahead of Carlo D'Anda and Luca D'Amelio, with Salvador Sotelo 4th and Simone Rabiti in 5th in the sim frame. Lexus as Zitello goes very, very wide in that number 56 BMW through the middle sector as they go towards Portimao corner now. Out of Craig Jones, they go uphill, and this is where the car can become a little bit unbalanced then, as you see Rabiti really pressurizing the back of Zitello. You can see another Lexus closing in behind in 6th position as well. But so far, really the big move has been, as you see, a bit of battling further back for, I think, 8th or 9th position in GD3. But that has resolved itself. There is Pen Impede trying to put the pressure on our 6th place car of Nicky Pastor in the Team Shiba car, not Gardinetto, sorry. And there is Pedro Ramada in the number 51, putting the pressure on Nicola Pagani as he tries to get into 11th position in that Aston Martin. Pedro Ramada, who has certainly had his adventures in his history in esports endurance series, and is now looking to get the Aston a bit further up the grid. It's interesting that so many went for the BMW and the Mustang, when in other championships I've been watching, it's usually been the Aston that has definitely been the car of choice, the Aston Martin Vantage GD3. And Ramada, one of the few to go for it in EEC this season. We cut back now to Nicky Pastore closing on Gardinetto, as we see a couple of comments in Italian. Buonasera a tutti. Tranece a Mariano Callis says Renato Vigilotti, and Simo Mello says Sera a tutti as well. So that's certainly everybody pleased to see each other again. It has been a long 4 months, hasn't it? As look at Gardinetto there, trying to hold off Nicky Pastore. Gardinetto looking a little bit cagey here. He's another of our CR racing driver, of course. So be interested to see how he gets on here as we cut back to Ricky Jimenez fighting away with Michele Rizzo. Very, very experienced. You can see it's Rizzo, one of the Virtual Drivers Alliance drivers, I think. Trying to keep the Italian team ahead in that battle for the top 8. You can see the number 46 Skechers sponsorship on the side of Jimenez's car there. Blue and yellow, easy livery to spot from a distance, and he's got the Mustang behind of Vidimari as well to worry about too. So Ricky Jimenez is trying to overcome his BMW rival in front of him, but the Mustangs could be a bit of a surprise package here as we cut back to the that's the BMW, sorry, of Manuel Norris all over the back of Andrea Gandosi. Gandosi qualified right at the back of the field and has been making progress, but now you see a little bit of pressure here from Norris, who's right behind, who dives up the inside into turn one. Is he going to make the apex here? Almost. Gandosi dives back up the inside, rides the curb as they go into turn three, but it is Norris that has made it through in BMW number 90, and that's a crucial move there. So Gandosi's progress beaten back to 14th position there, but the crucial gap up front, it is Abel Sakura continuing to pull away from Carlo Dianda to the tune of 1.4 seconds. As you can see, 1 hour 10 minutes to go. We've already seen a fair bit of action up and down the field, but really the top two in both classes have looked very, very steady, although Luca D'Amelio is starting to put the pressure on Carlo Dianda in the fight for second position in GT3. There they are. You can also see Zitello is not far behind either. But yeah, Sakura looking more and more in control then as they go through turns 11 and 12 into Sagres, turn 13, the right-hander that leads into Galp, the sort of very banked up and down roller coaster final corner we have here, which is where a lot of our moves are going to be set up as they wait for the long run into Premiera, the first corner, which is that sort of tight 45-degree, 90-degree right-hander. Of course, a little bit different to the motorcycle layout, where there's a big chicane at the first corner. Here it's a much faster corner, as we see. Oh, coming into the pits already comes one of our BMWs. Didn't see who that was. It was Nicola Pagani then, who pits from just inside the top 10. So that's a brave call then from the Italian. So Pagani then, just 6 minutes into the race, there could be some damage to that car for the MUK Motorsport team. Or potentially this is a drive-through penalty, I think, being served here by Nicola Pagani. So I would suspect that would be for exceeding track limits. Oh, as Vidmari hits the back of Ricky Jimenez into Torre Vip, the hairpin that forms turn 4. So it looked like Ricky Jimenez almost came to an unexpected stop, and Vidmari got completely caught out there. Let's hope the front bumper hasn't taken too much damage. Yeah, Vidmari continuing to reassert himself. You see Pedro Ramada starting to pressurize in the Aston Martin behind. He's been threatening to put the pressure on as we cut back to our hypercars, our Ferraris, and the Porsche of Gardinetto, Pastore, sorry, it must be said. We've got Pastore in the Porsche, Gardinetto in the Ferrari, and then I think we've got a Toyota just in front of that. No, that's Hakimi, sorry, who's also in a Ferrari. And Hakimi in 4th at the moment, trying to get back on the podium. As we're seeing the GT3 timing on the left, which is a little bit irrelevant when we're watching a hypercar fight, but nonetheless, Nicky Pastore has had some stellar performances for Team Shiba in the GT3 AM class in particular. A couple in the previous season of ES. And Nicky Pastore definitely wants to get himself onto the podium here in EEC. But of course, it's a new game. You can tell everybody sort of trying to find their feet here in these opening couple of rounds as they prepare for the big endurance series. Oh, here is a move from Vidmari on Ricky Jimenez. This time Jimenez is on the outside. Vidmari dives and he's driving into a wedge there. Oh, not enough space. And Vidmari does a 360-degree spin there. So a little bit unfortunate. I think Vidmari will say he was not given enough space there. As there's been some action between Hakimi dropping down to the back of the hypercar field. So Hakimi falls to P7, a bit of a spin in the middle sector, I think, coming out of Torre Vip into Samsung and Portimao. That's coming into the first couple of corners. He's had a spin at turn 1, has Mika Hakimi. And that's allowed Gardinetto through. Oh, is off track. Goes Ricky Jimenez. So after contact A lap ago, it's all starting to fall apart for him and F. Ramada now trying to go the long way around him. Oh, but sees a brief opening into turn 13. They're getting very, very physical. The cars almost locking into each other there, but Ramada is through into P10. So very, very aggressive driving there. And Ricky Jimenez finding himself losing not one, but 2 positions in the space of a couple of corners there. Up front in hypercar, though, Christian Malguera leading by 2.5 seconds over Michele Rocon. So it's looking very, very good for Simframe at the moment, and very bad for Mika Hakimi, as we see a little battle going on behind Ricky Jimenez. That is Andrea Gandosi and Frank van Ginneken. Ginneken has got the inside in the G-League Esports Aston Martin there. A brief gap left open, and Gandosi finding himself again shuffled out. Oh, as he hits the back of Van Ginneken, and potentially Vidmari recovering from his spin. He's going to be very, very keen to pick them off in rapid succession here if he gets the opportunity. But Daniele Vidmari, you can tell a little bit frustrated as you see a move up ahead. I think that was Ramada losing out there and falling down a position, as we see Gandosi and Van Ginneken still side by side. We've got Aston Martin versus BMW. It's Ginneken in the Aston Martin that still holds on, and Gandosi, you can tell, feeling frustrated. But here come the hypercar leaders. There's Christian Malguera. Oh dear, as we see, that's a big spin for Ricky Jimenez. And he's spun really at the top of the hill there. That's where the car gets really light and unstable as you crest the hill and get on the accelerator pedal. And clearly he's had a bit too much of it. And Ricky Jimenez falling to the back of the GT3 pack. But look at this. Malguera having a slightly easier path through as Michele Rocon held up by the Aston Martin in front of him. Sees a small gap at Sagres and goes for it. So they're still fairly close together. Within 2 seconds are 2 sim frames, which is exactly how they would want it. So competition between Rocon and Malguera, bring the best out of each other. Of course, not the usual situation. Usually they'd be in the same team sharing a car. That's what we've become used to seeing in EES from the Simframe boys. But on this occasion, they're fighting each other on track itself, as we cut to Tobias Blumschein, the German driver, of course, who was had a lot of success in sim racing, in particular in VEC Division 2, where he's won a couple of races. Had a couple of podiums in the opening season of VMS Contender. The gold, what is now the gold split, of course, as you see Paolo Penimpede almost getting an opportunity to take advantage of the traffic to pass Nicky Pastore. Pastore playing it a bit safe here, and he's now caught immediately back up to Gardinetto in front of him. As Penimpede in the arms, Supra number 42, looking for the opening here, but again, the traffic working against him here. Oh, he comes upon the Aston Martin exactly the wrong moment there, and that's cost Paolo quite a bit of time as he, gets a little bit of air there as he crosses the hill coming out of Portimao. Into Sagres comes Luca D'Amelio. Still stuck behind Deanda and Zitello, the 2 teammates either side of him for Virtual Drivers Alliance. If I'm not mistaken, pardon me, to sneeze. But nonetheless, it does look like Christian Malguera has got a bit of a challenge from Michele Rocon. So Rocon, I think, is a little bit more confident through the traffic, but are we going to see that go against him as he goes into the first corner? Still with a few GT3s in front of him. Here is Nicky Pastore, right in the wheel tracks of Francisco Gardinetto. And is there a way through into the first corner? Not quite. Nicky Pastore will have to wait in that number 73 for his opportunity, but he slides on the brakes into turn 3 and nearly hits the back of the Ferrari in front of him. So the Pastore Porsche 963 will have to wait for a better moment here. It's still very tightly packed in the battle for second in GT3. Deanda, D'Amelio and Zitello all within a second of each other. Although, having said that, D'Amelio's lost a bit of ground to Deanda, as now Pastore has another opportunity. There's the Mustang right in front of Gardinetto. So that's going to hold the Italian up. Here comes Nicky Pastore. over the hill. He goes up to the inside, and he's going to have to wait his chance. But look at Zitello all over the back of Luca D'Amelio, who's not looking as confident at this phase of the race. We are nearly at the 1 hour to go mark, so we've had about 15 minutes of the race. And still another 60 minutes left to go. Oh, look at this. Nicky Pastore looking to the outside through Sagres. Oh, touches the rear wheel of Gardinetto. And Francisco Gardinetto not going to be put off by that attack, as they have to pick their moment around the outside of the number 48 Lexus. Pastore cuts to the inside and is going to be right in the slipstream of Gardinetto. Then this to fight for 4th position in hypercar. Here comes the Team Sheba of Nicky Pastore. So experienced, so fast. Is he going to go a long way around? He's going to try to, but no room. As we look at Zitello continuing to challenge. And there's Deander being overtaken in the VDA by Nicky Pastore, following Gardinetto closely. You can see as well behind them the number 42 of Pen and Pede now losing, was getting closer as they fought each other, but is now losing a little bit of ground once more. There's Abel Sequeira, now 4 seconds clear at Deander. He's next to be negotiated by our hypercars. Let's look at this. Zitello desperate to join his teammate in the fight for the runners-up position, but they've also got, I think, Simone Robiti closing on them as well, 8/10 behind. As we see another, that is Mika Hakimi in 7th, trying to pick off the number 56 of Zitello. Oh, and D'Amelio as well in one swift movement there. So Hakimi very, very fired up, having spun it at the first corner. And there we go. Difficult position for Salvatore Zitello because he has got Simone Robiti all over the back of him, and D'Amelio and Deander all in front of him, so he doesn't really know whether to attack or defend at certain points here. You can tell Deander really struggling, and he's backing up the pack behind him. You are Nicky Pastore, still within 7/10 of Francisco Gardinetto in the fight for 4th. So Nicky Pastore continues to pressurize him, try and put Francisco under pressure so that he will make a mistake that he can take advantage of. Be interested to see where we are in terms of virtual energy for the hypercars. But we have to see who pits first, of course, from the leaders. Does look like we have lost Jimenez after his spin earlier on. So big shame for Ricky Jimenez. He is our first retirement of the race. Luca D'Amelio continuing to try and put the squeeze on Carlo Deander. This is a great fight for 2nd position, of course. Certainly very enjoyable to watch. And Renato Vigliotti says, "E tanta roba LMU." So certainly excited about the first race on Le Mans Ultimate. It's certainly the start of a new and hopefully exciting era. Look at that. Zitello going a bit off track through the middle sector there. And that's going to allow Robiti to get a little bit closer. Puts the pressure off Luca D'Amelio, who we've not seen in EES for a couple of seasons. But he has been doing a lot of sim racing. Brakes very early. Deander brakes very, very late as they come out of Portimao downhill into turns 12 and 13. And now back uphill towards Sagres they come. And you can tell D'Amelio biding his time patiently here. Knows the Mustang may have the grunt and the top speed to make a move here. Luca D'Amelio has got to pick his moment absolutely spot on here. So we are pretty much halfway through the first stint. So the fuel should be able to go at least another 15 minutes or so before we'll see the first pit stops. Should be a fairly clear one-stop race unless somebody's using a lot of fuel and virtual energy, especially in hypercar. There's Tobias Blumschein, who's closing on Marco Lodi Ruzzini for P6 in the Lexus. Tobias Blumschein sees an opening. Oh! And dives in, but it looks like Lodi Ruzzini turned the Lexus from the outside and ended up losing out there. So Blumschein saw his one moment and absolutely went for it into Lagos. Turn 3, of course. And now you can see Lodi Rizzini under pressure from Michele Rizzo. As we cut back to that second place battle, the positions unchanged. Deanda, D'Amelio, Zitello, Rabiti. Now Tobias Blumschein is unleashed past the Carloni racing car of Lodi Rizzini. He could be a big factor in this second place fight, but he is 4 seconds adrift. He is starting to close a couple of attempts each sector, though. So certainly those stuck behind Deanda may get a bit worried here, especially Rabiti, who's at the back of this train in that Simframe Lexus. Not able to really make much progress here as we see Zitello just trying to shift around in the ring mirrors of Luca D'Amelio as we see yellow flags flashing on track. They clear now. Lodi Rizzini, I think, has gone off somewhere. He's fallen to P9 behind Norris and Ramada. There they are. Ramada just getting through, so not a great couple of corners for the Carloni racing drivers. He's clearly had an incident in the middle and final sector. There's Vidmari continuing his fight back, trying to pass Frank van Ginneken. Vidmari was in that fight for the top 8, top 7, wasn't he? Before having that contact with Jimenez. He's now out of the picture entirely. Look at this, Tobias Blumschein. Just under 4 seconds behind them. But he has crucially got that clear air as we cut back to the 4th place battle in Hypercar between Nicky Pastore and Gardinetto. Gardinetto trying to take the wider line, gets on the power a bit earlier there, and that's the problem. I think the Porsche, while a pretty decent all-round package, is probably not the car of choice for Portimao. I think the Ferrari is definitely the faster package here at this particular circuit. Yeah, 499p. But of course, that's the thing with Le Mans Ultimate. There always seems to be an update every couple of months that shifts the BOP around. The Ferrari used to be a very dominant package, and now we're seeing in certain other championships the likes of the Daytona prototypes, the BMW hybrid V8, and of course the Corvette, not the Corvette, the Cadillac, that are really starting to become competitive packages. As you can see there, Rabiti putting the pressure on Salvatore Zitello, who's made the odd mistake here as the 3rd car in this train. And Rabiti, though, not quite able to really take advantage of it so far, but he will be very desperate to do so. Of course, a lot of excitement ahead of the 8th season of EES, the Esports Endurance Series, as we see Nicky Pastore shifting around on the exit of Portimao, looking for an inside line into turn 12. Now they approach Sagres. You can tell Gardinetto is getting very defensive here as they're dropping well off the back of the podium fight with Roman Marchand, who's a good 10 seconds ahead of them now. And Nicky Pastore tucks in. A little bit of sparks dripping out the back of Gardinetto's Ferrari, but the 936 of Pastore closing and closing. Can Nicky Pastore make a move into the first corner? He goes to the outside. He's going to try and cut underneath, then well over the curb into Premiera. Now towards Lagos they come. It's to the outside that Nicky Pastore tries to aim his assault here, but it is not successful. Again, Gardinetto sort of knows exactly where to place the car, but he is still looking a little bit vulnerable here on the run into Torre Vip as we cut back to Vidmari fighting away with Ginneken for P11, as I think that's the race leader, Malguera, lapping them again. Okay, 4.7 seconds ahead of his teammate Rocon. No, that was Rocon, sorry, that just passed them. Pastore still right behind Gardinetto, within 2 tenths there briefly. So there are opportunities here. The Porsche looks a little bit better through the more technical sections, but in terms of the high speed and acceleration, I think the Ferrari is the better car to be in. But Gardinetto is defending well, and you can see Pede starting to close on this fight, 1.5 seconds behind. So Gardinetto is hoping to back Nicky Pastore into the armed Serbrica rather than trying to pull away because I think he knows Nicky Pastore is a little bit too talented here to just sprint away from. Potentially as well, Nicky Pastore may be saving a bit of fuel and virtual energy to run longer into this race then. We are about half an hour in now. Well, just under 25 minutes, I think, or so, into the race. Ooh, lock up for Pastore into Lagos. That hasn't lost him too much time. You can tell he is really starting to lose patience behind Gardinetto. They lap the BMW in front of them. And it doesn't provide too big an obstacle, as there is our third place man overall in the brightly coloured Toyota, Roman Marchand. Sweeps ahead of Pedro Ramada, but Lodi Rosini has got his sights set on getting back into P9 here. And look at the rake. It's very high at the rear, the Lexus. So there's a sort of big angle of attack. Potential that's helping it over the curves, especially for the rear tyres. It could be a decent setup to have. Let's see if the Lexus, which has been a pretty handy package, especially in qualifying. Let's see if that can work to its advantage here. Here is the Team Sheba of Nicky Pastore that we're on board with now. And Impede within 9/10, so that shows you just how much time he's lost stuck behind Gardinetto and sort of chasing his tail a little bit. As we see, you can see the speedometer and which gear Nicky Pastore is in at the present moment. In 5th at the moment as he rises over the hill, switches to 6th, coming out of Galp, starting another lap then. Laps both of the GT3s in front of him. Launches over the curb. You can tell Gardinetto's got a bit of the hurry up here, isn't he? Because he's pulled just over a second clear. And this is that second place fight again. As you watch Simone Rabiti in the Lexus. Still fairly high at the rear here. But oh, again, Zitello runs wide. Coming into out of Craig Jones and into Portimao. So Zitello could be in trouble for track limits if he keeps pulling that move. But he's right behind D'Amelio now. And can he put pressure on D'Amelio? Ran outside comes Marchand in the M&M's coloured Toyota. Not sure what we should call that livery. It's very brightly coloured. And gaudy a little bit. like a Smarties car, maybe. Using a lot of regional references that I don't think international viewers will understand. But nonetheless, Salvatore Zitello needs to keep that 56 car in play. Luckily, Carlo D'Anda has pulled a bit of a gap there, as there is Penipede lapping Ramada and Lodi Rizzini. As we see another yellow flag, and Mika Hakimi getting a penalty. So Mika Hakimi could well be out of this one, and that's a huge shame. Our second retirement of the day then. And Hakimi had that spin at the first corner that we missed. Sadly, we haven't really got replays in this particular version of Le Mans Ultimate at the moment. So we can't really see what happened to poor Mika Hakimi. But suffice to say, I'm pretty sure he spun on his own while pushing this a little bit too hard. And that's very much keeping up the pattern that we've seen lately from Mika Hakimi in the Esports Endurance Series. A former champion, of course, by a very narrow margin, beat what is now the Simfreem team in, I think, Season 4. Oh, as we see Lodi Rizzini diving up the inside. That's a very, very late move on Pedro Ramada there. Ramada's on the outside, but he'll have the overlap coming out of Craig Jones. And towards Portimao, there we go. Lodi Rizzini has to back off there, but that was sort of... Ramada braked very, very early, and Lodi Rizzini sort of had to reluctantly, very late in the day, turn it into a overtake attempt into Toro Vip, the hairpin. No joy so far, but the Lexus still looking like a pretty strong package here against the Aston Martin. Oh, as the rear steps out over the hill for Lodi Rizzini, the Carloni Racing Lexus really being put through its paces. There, of course, another team that has won the championship, very nearly won the AM Championship in EES last season, but for a late misfortune that handed it back to Rookie Monsters, who did look to be out of the picture entirely after retiring at Le Mans. Very dramatic finish to the season, really. You can see Zitello continuing up front to put the pressure on D'Amelio. 7/10 is the gap there. As we look at Lodi Rizzini continuing to chase down that at night position of Pedro Ramada. Ramada also getting a bit of a tow from Norris in front of him. So that is helping him. Norris, of course, not to be confused with the man second in the championship in Formula 1. Lando Norris, of course. The runner-up from last season as well. Who is looking to try and chase down Oscar Piastri. 14 points is the gap there. And again, Zitello really flirting with track limits there through the middle sector into Samsung. He's done that at least 3 times in this race now that we've seen. As there is Lodi Rizzini ahead of Pedro Ramada. So he's made the move into the first sector. And now starts to consolidate that advantage. So a good recovery drive from Lodi Rizzini after having a bit of difficulties earlier on. Where he got sort of spun out. We are all approaching half distance now of our 75-minute race. 45 minutes left to go. So we should not be far away from the first pit stops. And it'll be interesting to see who decides to go in early and who's going to stretch the fuel tank for as long as possible. Don't think any of the hypercars have come in yet. As we see, there's our full grid. 6 hypercars still remaining with the retirement of Hakimi. And 8/10 then. The closest battle really is Gardinetto, Pastore and Penimpede for 4th place. 8 seconds separate all of our podium runners in hypercar. And then in GT3, you can see the battle for second in front of you. Abel Sequeira has actually started to be closed in by Deander. I wonder is Abel Sequeira had to save a bit of fuel here. There he is. You can see him just disappearing out of frame there as Deander chases him down. Deander has really rallied and recovered a bit in this part of the race. So we're looking at potentially a 5-way fight for victory in GT3 between Sequeira, Deander, D'Amelio, Zitello and Rabiti. I think Blumschein is a little bit too far back to get involved. And again, Zitello decides to leave the circuit almost through Samsung. Certainly the track limits are a little bit ill-defined. We see Frank Van Ginneken has had a big moment coming out of turn 4. Out of Lagos, he has dropped it in the gravel, so I suspect some contact with another car. It's dropped him down to 13th position behind Andrea Gandosi. So a lot of bad luck there for Frank Van Ginneken, who was in the top 10 before that point, or at least in P11. And still a very, very tense stalemate then in the fight for second position in GT3. Abel Sequeira starting to be sucked back in to this duel. You can see Rabiti just able to keep pace with Zitello in front of him. But of course, Salvatore Zitello could be in trouble with track limits there, as we see. Oh, is that a bit of a fight back from Abel Sequeira? He was 700ths faster the previous lap. And you can see deep on the brakes into Lagos was D'Amelio. So now Deander being put under pressure once more. That could distract him from any attack on the BMW that's leading the race. As this is Blumschein now feeling a bit of pressure from Michele Rizzo, who's right behind him then in this fight for 6th position in GT3. Blumschein getting defensive, goes to the middle of the road, but that's going to hurt his exit from Torre Vip. They're almost side by side now as they go through the little S-bend section. And now towards Samsung, it is Blumschein that pulls clear, and Rizzo who has to lift off there. So good defensive driving from Blumschein. All this dueling away is not going to help his chances of fighting for the podium. There is Frank Van Ginneken. Oh, right behind Gandosi as one of the hypercar leaders laps them. Believe that was Malguera. And Ginneken, after an incident earlier on will be very, very keen to put one over on Gandosi for the driver of the Tomelli ERT team. Team that had some pretty strong performances here and there, especially with the BOP throughout the last season in EAS. There was a couple of really, really good races by them. Think of Daytona, where they narrowly missed out on victory to GR Simfrust. The Polish squad, of course. It was something like less than half a second at the finish after 12 hours of racing. Definitely one of the more memorable finishes of the season. As there is Marchand now. So it must have been Rokon that lapped these two earlier. And Marchand is a little bit delayed, but looks like he is well on his way to opening this EEC season with a podium. As we're nearly at the 40-minute mark then. So after 35 minutes of racing, the fuel tanks will be just ever so slightly starting to near empty. They can maybe do about 10 minutes more. Could see a couple trying to go pit with 25 minutes remaining. But I think now is really the crucial part of the race that will decide who is going to finish out on top. Now we see Demedio cutting the track limits in front of... Oh, no, it's Blumshine, sorry. Ahead of Rizzo. Very similar liveries. Since I believe Blumshine's using the default one. And then there's a load of Virtual Drivers Alliance liveries used by the likes of Deanda, Zitilla and Rizzo. Yeah, Blumshine looking a bit under pressure. You can't really see the back of Rabiti from here. Such as the gap that they've pulled. As here is Lodo Rizzini putting the pressure on Manuel Norris now. And yeah, after passing for P9, Lodo Rizzini fancies another place. He's cleared Ramada, and now he wants Norris to be added to his hit list here. Lodo Rizzini was instrumental to them winning the AM Championship a couple of seasons ago. So good to see him back in the saddle. Now putting in a bit of an overtake show here. He's tucked in right behind Norris. What can Manuel Norris do as they go into the first corner? He is getting ever so slightly defensive here. And Lodo Rizzini knows this could be a trickier move to pull in that Lexus. Into Lagos they go. Again, it is Manuel Norris holding him up almost, but this will be his best chance then on the run into Torre VIP. And you can tell Manuel Norris going right to the inside, forces Lodo Rizzini to go the long way round. He brakes late. You can tell the car running so low at the front, it was scraping the floor there, sparks flying out. But again, Lodo Rizzini is held at bay, so good defensive driving from Manuel Norris in the BMW. Is Blumshine still under pressure here? Pastore is back within 0.2 of Gardinetto, so that fight is really heating up for P4 in Hypercar. Would love to see that, as well as Lodo Rizzini waiting for his opportunity here behind Manuel Norris. Gardinetto really under pressure in that fight for P4 in Hypercar, and Pastore has made it through. So excellent there. That must have been a move into the... where are they on track? That must have been into Torre VIP, I think. Or Lagos, one of the two. And it looks like Pastore has made that move conclusively. It's a shame we just missed that on stream, but never mind. Michele Rizzo right behind Tobias Blumshine. Getting great toe on the run into turn one. You see a reminder of our two leaders, Malguera and Sakura. Very late on the brakes is Michele Rizzo. Oh! Tobias Blumshine almost gets high up in the air there as he flies over the curb. And now we cut to Lodo Rizzini trying to put Norris offline. Very, very close. Oh, a bit of contact between Marchand and Rizzo as Marchand goes around the outside in the hypercar. The Toyota GR010. That has delayed Rizzo ever so slightly, prevented him from launching an attack. But again, looks like Blumshine not quite as confident into the hairpin, and that could create another opportunity here. How much longer can these guys go on the field? Yellow flag, some are out on track. So somebody outside the top 5 has hit trouble in either class. Kelly Rizzo, though, desperate to get into the top 6, whereas, oh, you can tell now, it looks like Lottie Rizzini has made it past Manuel Norris, and Pedro Ramada now is going to try and do the same. Very close as they go downhill out of Portimao into turn 12. And Pedro Ramada trying to use the strengths of the Aston Martin to get ahead. It is a very, very well-balanced car as we cut back to the 6th place battle. Still no movement between D'Emilio Zitello and Ribiti in the fight for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and 5th. D'Anda has closed dramatically. We're almost just a second behind Sequeira now. So Abel Sequeira is looking under pressure in the lead battle as we cut to, oh, this is Gardinetto trying to get back in front of Pastore, but now Penimpede is all over the back of him and they're being held up by the traffic here. Can Paolo Penimpede capitalize here? Up the inside they both go on, I think that was Pedro Ramada there. And, oh, that's actually held up Nicky Pastore. Here comes Gardinetto. Oh, bit of contact with the rear of the Team Sheba Porsche there. And Gardinetto is almost going to be alongside, but a little bit too far back into Torre Vip. Penimpede dives up the inside past Norris. And that is Penimpede keeping his 2 rivals in sight in front of him. So a really fantastic fight for 4th place here. 34 minutes left to go. And the fuel ever so slightly starting to creep down and trickle down as these drivers have to make up their mind now. Run long, pit later, put in less fuel, or pit now, come out in clear air potentially, but have to pit for longer and maybe get overcut later on if you can't get the gap that you need. Gardinetto then, been passed by Pastore a few laps ago, has kept him very honest since. So you're going to see them negotiate another GT3 battle. In comes our race leader, Abel Sequeira. So that is telling. That's why he was dropping off, because he was using so much fuel in the first half of the race. And then suddenly realized that and had to slow down a bit to make his pit window. But now we should be seeing a lot more GT3s diving for the pit lane, maybe even a couple of hypercars as well. This releases, of course, everybody from 2nd onwards. D'Anda now is our race leader. Yellow flag somewhere out there in the GT3 class. Oh, won the Virtual Drivers Alliance cars. It's Rizzo that has dipped into the gravel at the first corner. So he has lost out in that fight with Tobias Blumschein. Michele Rizzo falls to P9 in VDA car number 74 as Abel Sequeira escapes the pit lane. What can the Spanish... He's a Spanish driver, of course, with the big Spanish flag on the top. What can he do as he rejoins the field? He's going to be in 11th at the moment, having been the first of our GT3 leaders to pit. But that puts the pressure on the rest of the field to respond. And you can see how much time Tobias Blumschein has lost defending. He's 14 seconds down on Ribiti, who, as you see on screen at the moment, about to be lapped by the Team Sheba car of Nicky Pastore. Pastore only about 4 seconds behind Roman Marchand here, so it's not impossible that he could finish on the podium in the Porsche. Oh, round the outside goes Gardinetto, and there is Penimpede. He decides to stick to the inside. And you can see Ribiti is right behind Salvatore Zitello. Is getting close into turn 1, but again, the Lexus not quite close enough to mount a challenge. The BMW really strong in a straight line. And this has sort of been the state of play for the entire race for Simone Ribiti. Might there be a temptation to pit earlier? Manuel Norris now decides to pit from P8. So that is going to move, crucially, Abel Sequeira up a place. We've got 31 minutes left on the clock here. Drive-through. This is a drive-through for Manuel Norris, sorry. not a pit stop. And I believe it may potentially be for... Oh, it's for contact with Lodi Rosini. So that explains what happened earlier. So the in-race our stewards in real time dishing out a penalty there. But meanwhile, our top 4 within a second and a half. Then Nicola Pagani, though, he is making his scheduled stop. That is going to drop him right to the back of the field again. Looks like Penimpede has passed Gardinetto for 5th in Hypercar. So Paolo Penimpede making moves similar to what we saw Nicky Pastore do. It's GT3s that are the most interesting class at the moment. As you see, Deanda, D'Amelio, Zitello, Robiti are top 4. All in formation, and into the pits comes Carlo Deanda. So this is critical. Is he going to come out ahead of Abel Secura? With 30 minutes left to go in this race. Should be a slightly shorter stop. There is Abel in car number 99. Let's see what his sector and lap times would be like. As we see, there we go. Carlo Deanda stationary. Through goes Tobias Blumschein. Pedro Ramada is also going to go through. He's able to go 13th at the moment. Oh, I have a feeling Deanda might get out in front of him here. Still being worked on here is Abel Segura coming through turn 12 out of Portimao. Yeah, 2 more corners to go, but already Deanda is released. He's going to come out even ahead of Frank Van Ginneken here. So the strategy is horribly backfired for Abel Segura. Not only having pit early, he's had to put on more fuel, but it looks like it was a very long stop, and he's not really had a great couple of outlaps. So through, here comes Carlo Deanda. He's going to be ahead of Manuel Norris in 10th position. No tyre change, we're hearing, for Carlo Deanda. Whereas Abel Segura did change tyres. So that might explain why the stop was so quick. I think that is absolutely right. That's just a comment from our broadcast director, Mariano Callo, sending me a couple of messages there. So I think he's absolutely spot on there with his instincts. Meanwhile, our top 3 still yet to pit. Well, actually, pretty much everybody in the top 9 is yet to pit in GT3. And nobody's pit yet in Hypercar. Although, having said that, yellow flag out there. Is that Penimpede that's hit trouble? Because Gardinetto's back through into 5th place. There he is. Oh, dear. Paolo having a spin. Possibly contact from behind. Out of Lagos and into turn 4. But look at this. Battle for second. Finally, Simone Robiti dives up the inside into Lagos. But Salvatore Zitello immediately back up the inside. So a little bit too deep on the brakes. Robiti had waited patiently for his moment, but he got greedy when it came. And that's backfired there. So a reminder of the order with less than half an hour left to go. Still, a lot of drivers yet to pit, and it is Margera leading Rocon by 9 seconds. Romain Marchand is 3rd, 15 seconds down on the pair of them. Then Nicky Pastore is in 4th, about 7 seconds adrift. Oh, really wide from Zitello, who's clearly under a lot of pressure here. Then we have got Pastore, Gardinetto, and Penimpede completing our top 6 hypercar runners. In GT3, D'Amelio leads by 8 tenths over Zitello. And then Robiti, you're watching close behind at the moment. Tobias Blumschein is 10th overall with Pedro Ramada 11th. Lodi Rosini is 12th. Michele Rizzo is 13th. Vidmari 14th with Van Ginneken 15th. Deanda is the first of our cars who's pit, but we believe he hasn't changed tyres. And Deanda is in that top 16, top 17. There is Lodi Rosini challenging Pedro Ramada. And Lodi Rosini for Carloni Racing has had a monster fight back in this race, but Ramada has been quite the roadblock for him, stopping him challenging for the top 10 here. Don't forget, of course, Sequeira was our pole sitter, led so much of the first stint, and he's found himself down in 18th, 13 seconds behind Deanda, who's ahead of Norris by only half a second now. As look at this, Lotterizini taking his chance, but it's blocked off down the inside by Pedro Armada, so that forces the Lexus to go the long way round. The Aston Martin, they're side by side into Primera, the first corner. Can Lotterizini pull this one off? No, he can't. Pedro Armada holds his line. Fantastic defensive driving as Rocon pits from second in hypercar. And he's pit with 26 minutes remaining, so he is the first of our hypercars to take the plunge into the pit lane. That allows Marchand to briefly run second. Nicky Pastore is now up to third, and Gardnetto up to fourth. The Rocon should re-emerge. As we see another attempt from Marco Lodi-Ruzzini to steal 11th from Pedro Ramada. Into Samsung they come. And again, Lodi-Ruzzini just looking a little bit more confident and aggressive, especially under braking. Carlo Deanda, by the way, really starting to catch Van Ginneken for 15th. Yellow flag out there. Not sure who that is for. Somebody dropping down the order. This looks like Pen and Perez made another mistake. As into the pits comes race leader Christian Margera. And one of the Virtual Drive Alliance cars. That's our second place man. Or previously second place man. Salvatore Zitello and Rabiti both coming in. So that is crucial between those two and their little fight for what would be third or fourth position, depending on how the strategy plays out. We'll have to see where they come out relative to Deanda. But this potentially could be a really big opportunity for Carlo Deanda to take the class lead. There goes Marchand. Briefly leads by virtue of his pit box being ahead of Malgueras. There you go. Nicky Pastore will take the lead then in hypercar. Running a few laps longer. There is Rabiti. Rabiti, I think, has gotten out ahead of Salvatore Zitello, crucially. But where is Carlo Deanda? Deanda is behind. There we go. So he's been overcut by Simone Rabiti by pitting that lap later. Fascinating stuff. So the Lexus could well be in the GT3 class lead now. So that's excellent work for Simframe, who potentially got the lead of both classes. We're yet to see D'Amelio, Blumshine, or Vidmari pit, though. D'Amelio could be a big threat here. Meanwhile, Michele Rocon is right behind Pen and Pede, so what's happened with the hypercar order? It's been a little bit mixed up here. Pen and Pede, very, very deep, and lets through Michele Rocon, which makes sense. Pen and Pede yet to pit, but round the outside. This looks like Carlo Deanda making a move on Rabiti. A little bit of wheel door-to-door banging, but downhill into turn 12. It is Deanda that crucially overtakes the Simframe Lexus there and takes what could be the net class lead of the race. That is currently fourth position. And there's one of the Simframe hypercars desperately trying to clear the pair of them. That's our second place, man. So the action just continuing to heat up. They're cold tires, we're hearing, for the Lexus of Simone Rabiti. And that potentially is given the advantage to Deanda. But Rabiti, if he can heat them up quickly enough, he could be able to counter-attack then. Who's this coming in? It's Vidmari pitting. So that allows Blumshine into second. Well, the Blumshine, I think, was already second. Deanda is going to go through into third. Sakura's about 8 seconds down on these two. Neither of which have changed tyres, if I'm not mistaken. Although I think Rabiti may have. Look at this. Marchand making a bid on Rocon for second there. Side by side as Marchand, by pitting a lap later, has tried to overcut here Michele Rocon. But Rocon going around the outside into turn 3 will hold on to that second place. And now we're going to cross over into effectively the lead fight in GT3. Romain Marchand isn't done yet. He's going to go to the outside into Torre Vip. This is fantastic racing, but Michele Rocon has got the inside, holds him off, and nowhere for the brightly coloured Toyota to go there. So a good attempt from Romain Marchand, but he didn't quite have the sort of gap to come out ahead there. Very nearly did, though. As now we see D'Amelio's pitting from the GD3 lead. This is crucial because while these two have been fighting each other, he could well have taken advantage. 21 minutes left to go on the clock. There's Pen and Pede, I think, also coming out of the pits. As here comes Luca D'Amelio. He gets the Mustang to a stop there in box number 20. And look at this. Robiti Deanda know that they could well be in a race with D'Amelio on the pit exit here. They cannot afford to lose out. Here comes Deanda and Robiti then. Oh, but look at this very quick stop from Luca D'Amelio. Knew he didn't have to put as much fuel in. Is he going to come out still in the class lead here in that Mustang? It looks like he will. He's a good 10 to 7 seconds ahead of the other cars then. In comes Blumshine. Out comes Luca D'Amelio right behind Roman Marchand. And in the lead, crucially, is there's Blumshine being serviced. Where's he going to come out, actually, interestingly? Through goes Deanda, through goes Robiti. Is Sakura going to get out ahead of Tobias Blumshine? Blumshine, oh, is going to come out just behind, and he gets a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So that makes that academic for Tobias Blumshine. He has absolutely blown that one, I'm sad to say. Nonetheless, good effort to try and outfox his rival strategically by pitting as late as he did. Christian Malguera, unsurprisingly, even more dominant in the lead in Hypercar. Good 12 seconds ahead of Michele Rocon. So Rocon fighting away with Roman Marchand has cost him a good crucial few seconds there. And Christian Malguera will be right on board with, looking more and more confident, more and more in control as he clears the number 69 Aston Martin. And he's only really got 20 minutes to go. And he could be our first LMU winner in the EEC Championship. Will Snowden, good friend, driver Boyd Transport Racing as well in the EAS Championship. He says hello, and I think Mariano said hi, William, in response. So always good to hear from Will Snowden, who of course is also very active in Formula Sim Racing Pro Championship as well, where he's got some pretty decent results under his belt as well in his part season campaign there. So he's not been idle during the off season. I should know, I'm the president of FSR, but nonetheless, Simone Robiti there, having briefly looked like he might have been challenging for the lead, now sees himself once more in a fight for second with Carlo Deanda then. So he's in a better position than he was, but I think ideally he would like to be on the second step of the podium. That would be the best possible result. He's got slightly fresher tyres than Carlo Deanda ahead of him, but crucially it was the warm-up that caught him out there. Blumshine comes in to serve his penalty. That's going to allow Salvatore Zitello through, who's another driver that's really lost out in the pit stop phase here. Oh, very, very wide from Marco Lodi Rosini at the final corner. Not sure where he was going, but that's not going to help him pass Pedro Ramada. But with a penalty for Blumshine, Lodi Rosini is up to P7. Ramada is up to P6. So Blumshine, I think actually he served the penalty the lap before, did he? Because that seems to be another pit stop made by him, unless it's a stop and go. So where's Blumshine going to come out? In 9th position then. So I think Rizzo's going to be a little bit too far back to take advantage. There we go. Oh, no, Rizzo immediately goes through and proves me wrong as Blumshine gets yet another penalty for speeding on the pit exit. So what is he doing? It could be on pit entry, actually. Like just braking a bit too late. But that is a little bit silly from Tobias Blumshine because I feel like he's spending more time in the pits than out on track these last few laps. And this is certainly going to cost him a chance to finish in the top 10 then. As we cut back to our lead fight then. Simone Robiti keeping Carlo Deanda honest. And hoping for a way through. But for D'Amelio, pitting late, saving the fuel better than anybody else, has paid dividends here. As we look at our full order, Gardinetto still about a second behind Niki Pastore. So a good little fight for 4th, as has been the case the whole race in Hypercar. Marchand has fallen about 9 seconds behind Rocon. So the overcut strategy has not really paid out for Roman Marchand. Robiti, though, has not given up on trying to fight for second position. Deanda and himself have been lapping slightly quicker than D'Amelio in front of them. But they've not been gaining more than maybe a 10th every other lap here. Definitely feels like they're going to start fighting each other Abel Sequeira, though, on the fresh tyres, has been closing on the pair of them, about 3 seconds behind. You can just see him cresting the hill in the yellow and white and black BMW behind them. And what can the Spaniard do here? The Sequeira has been able to stay ahead of Zitello, but he has got quite the challenge in front of him. And you have got to wonder if Tobias Blumschein did not speed in the pits twice, where he might be behind Sequeira right now, potentially in 5th position. Instead, it looks like he's not even going to finish in the top 10, given he's still got another penalty to serve. 16 minutes left to go, and it does seem like everybody's served their one and only pit stop here. So everybody should comfortably make it to the end. As here comes Gardinetto, who has lost a bit of time to Pastore. It's Pastore right behind Roman Marchand, sorry, in the fight for 3rd. So Hypercar is starting to speed up here. And that is interesting because the times against ActGap, there we go. It should be 27 seconds between Marchand and Pastore, and then 1.2 seconds between Pastore and Gardinetto. So, yeah, definitely the timing screen is not giving us accurate information here, which is slightly concerning, given what's only a 75-minute race. It's not like it should have lost track of everyone is at this point. But a final 15 minutes to go, and it's looking tense between Ribiti and Deander in the fight for 2nd position in GD3. Carlo Deander defending well, as he has pretty much the entire stint. But he has been outfoxed by Luca D'Amelio, as indeed they all have. And we could be in for a very exciting climax here. Can Simone Ribiti make an opportunity happen for him? Certainly Simframe will be cheering him on. They've also got a 1-2 to look forward to in Hypercar, with Malguera and Rocon comfortably leading Marchand and continue to extend that gap. Rocon matching the times of Malguera, but not really making big inroads here. And unless he starts gaining more than a second a lap, it's difficult to see Malguera being challenged for the lead of this race. Deander, meanwhile, starting to just pull a couple attempts on Ribiti, but Sequeira has gained another half a second this previous lap on the fresh tyres. So Abel Sequeira could be challenging both of them for P2 in these closing stages. Keep your eyes on the BMW of our pole sitter, as maybe we could ride on board, see how aggressive he's driving then. Takes a wide entry into gap. There we are, as we are on board with the front bonnet. And now inside the cockpit, you can see the protective equipment for the driver. Yellow flag somewhere out on track. So one of our back markers has hit trouble. Let's go 1 or 2 seconds now behind Simone Ribiti. So Ribiti will be looking a bit worried here, because rather than catching Deander, he is more being caught from behind. And that BMW, you can see the rear-facing camera as well that Sequeira has got to work with in the cockpit. Nobody behind him, apart from Zitello, 8 seconds in arrears, who is matching him in terms of lap times. They're both starting to catch, but you have the feeling that Zitello is going to run out of laps to catch Deander and Ribiti, whereas Sequeira has got a much better chance of making progress here. But it will defend. It will depend on how hard Ribiti defends, and Deander too, for that matter. Have closed a couple of seconds on D'Amelio that previous lap, so Luca D'Amelio could be starting to run out of tyres as well. It is a bit of a gamble not changing tyres here at Portimao. Quite a tough circuit on tyres, but given it's a 75-minute race, there's that temptation to risk it. There is Niki Pastore, 4 seconds ahead of Gardinetto. Still quite a way behind Roman Marchand here. Yeah, 23 seconds. That looks like a more accurate gap then. As all Ribiti being lapped by Paolo Penimpede in the Arms Supercar. And with 12 minutes to go, we are in for the novelty, of course, of a first ever Le Mans Ultimate race here for the organisers and the championship. And that's really going to be key in seeing not just how the EEC series plays out here, but also how future EES championships are going to unravel, especially with driver swaps. They've been tested in the game in special events, but are yet to be fully available to all sim racing leagues and sundry. So we'll have to see if and when we get access to that, because that could dictate when the next EES season will start. But still, nonetheless, as a compromise, this is a great opportunity for the drivers to really get their foot in the door and show what they can do in a slightly shorter format. More yellow flags out on track somewhere that could briefly clear up. Abel Segura, though, our pole sitter, will he rue changing tyres at the pit stop, or could it prove to be a masterstroke then in these final 10 minutes? He is 4th at the moment, having lost a fair bit of time, but he's now caught right back up to the back of Carlo D'Anda, as here comes our second place man, Rock-On, in hypercar, lapping all of them, and a little bit delayed, if anything, by his sister teammate, Rock-On, as he clears Simone Robiti. And now D'Anda as well is dispensed of, so should be a clear run, or at least a lap or two for Abel Segura here, and that could be all he needs to pick off Simone Robiti. Has Robiti got anything left in the tank to defend with here? This is crucial then as we enter the final 10 minutes of this first EC race on Le Mans Ultimate here at Portimao. 10 minutes remaining, so we have had a full hour and 5 minutes, haven't we? And it's really flown by, especially for the drivers, it must be said. And Luca D'Amelio is currently on course to win the season opener. Great return for the Italian to this particular championship. But look at this. Up the inside comes Abel Segura. Robiti leaves the door open. Oh, locks wheels, touches the back. And there's a spin just ahead as well for, that must be D'Anda. Oh, and D'Anda is cleared by Simone Robiti there. So all action there. It looked like Carlo D'Anda lost it completely on his own, feeling the pressure from behind. But he didn't realize Robiti and Segura had locked a tyre to rear bumper there. As there through goes Roman Marchand, trying to negotiate all three of them at once. And doing so successfully. But this is not over yet then. Because Abel Segura will fancy another go, this time at Carlo D'Anda. But Robiti has now been unleashed, having survived that assault there. Oh, big dive from Segura, and he's getting impatient here. He's still got 8.5 minutes left to mount a challenge, but on the fresher tyres, there was that big opening up the inside, but bit of contact between him and Robiti. I wonder if that can be investigated after the race. Hopefully, we get to see a clean fight to the end here. Through the back straight, out of gallop, and back up the hill comes Abel Segura. So we have got D'Anda holding off Abel Segura at the moment in the battle for third position. But Abel Segura wants that podium so badly, having started on pole position. Carlo D'Anda just swipes across the front of him, and the Virtual Drivers Alliance driver will not be undone today, at least not so far. You can see behind Zitello has caught up quite a lot while all this squabbling has been going on. He's only about just under 3 seconds in the rearview mirror. Into Torre Vip they come again. Segura late on the brakes, but another defensive move from Carlo D'Anda, who nearly hits the back of Robiti. So Robiti is not breaking away, and this is also ideal for D'Amelio, who's now 11 seconds to the good then. Here we go. Abel Segura gets a good exit out of Portimao, but again, Carlo D'Anda pulls to the outside to block his path. And it's the two BMWs fighting each other, but look at the fresh tyres of Segura. Oh, no room up the inside there. And he's flashing his lights. He feels he was entitled to a little bit more space. And this is not ideal for Abel Segura. He cannot find a way through. And are we going to see a few more desperate dives here as he tries to unsettle Carlo D'Anda? can see in the top rear view mirror there, Zitello closing in, now just 1.5 seconds in arrears. So Sequeira under real pressure here, and this is a very uncomfortable situation there. As you can see, Deanda trying to break the toe down the back straight here. 6.5 minutes left to go. Another attempt into the first corner, covered off by Carlo Deanda, and you can tell now Rabiti is enjoying this, starting to pull away. More defensive shakes being thrown from the Virtual Drivers Alliance machine, and he's got his teammate coming to the rescue. The cavalry has arrived in the form of Salvador Zitello. Through now comes Nicola Pastore. Oh, up the inside comes Sequeira, late on the brakes. Is he going to be able to pull that one off into Torre Vip? Oh, leaves the door open on the inside. Deanda pushes him off track there. No love lost between these two as Pastore threads the needle and laps the pair of them into Samsung. They go. Oh, Sequeira on the inside and well off track goes Deanda. I think Deanda may be in difficulties there. Through goes Zitello as well. Oh, Deanda is in the wall. And you have to say there was definitely contact between the two cars there. And, yeah, Abel Sequeira, not the cleanest move, but a bit of frustration boiling over. And Zitello now looking to punish it. Either way, Abel Sequeira has found himself on the podium. And Rabiti might well be in for round 2 here after the contact between these two earlier on. But look at Zitello. He has saved these tyres a little bit more. Not had to do quite as much battling. And he is definitely a threat here as he tries to find a way through at Sagres. And he's going to set himself up well through Gaup into the start-finish line. 4 minutes away from the finish of this race. And is looking very, very good for the two Simframe machines that lead in Hypercar. Here comes Zitello. Gaining down the straight all the time, but not close enough into the first corner. And time is starting to run out here if he wants to get that car onto the podium. Saw what happened to his teammate Deanda. The door is left open just briefly. Oh, what a bit of contact between the two there. I think that was a bit overambitious from Zitello through the Lagos corner. And now he's going to the outside, but it is Sequeira defending the inside. Forces him to go the long way round, but there could still be a chance here if Zitello is early enough on the power. And he's a little bit too far back, I think, to mount a challenge into Samsung. But nonetheless, he is going to give it a go. Here comes Gardinetto coming to lap the pair of them. Up the inside he goes, and that's going to split them up, surely. Oh, you can tell Zitello not keen to let the number 115 car through. Pagani is making a late pit stop from 10th. So he was one of our first of our GT3s to pit, so he is in difficulties. That could give a free place to Gandosi and Blumschein. Fantastic fight for P2, though, in GT3. Continuing on. Certainly it's gone a bit physical here. And I think we could have a couple of angry drivers after this one. In particular, Abel Sequeira. Would hope that he would have been challenging for the win and not fighting to hold on to third here. But still, Rabiti, 1.3 seconds up the road, just within reach, but time is running out here. We're not far away from our race leader in Hypercar starting the final lap. There he is, Christian Malguera. Definitely a good 15 seconds, 16 probably, I think, clear of Michele Rocon. It says 2 seconds on the timing screen, but I don't think that's necessarily accurate. Meanwhile, D'Amelio, 9 seconds clear of Rabiti, who's got this fight continuing on behind him. Zitello again closing in. He might be looking for a final lap challenge here for third position. Second, third, and fourth place fight. It's anybody's guess which order these three are going to finish in. And look at that. Oh, Zitello very, very wide through Samsung. They go back uphill towards Portimao. Downhill into the next section of the track. And here we go, cresting the hill. Look how much closer Zitello is now to Abel Sequeira. As we see, is that the race leader coming through to lap them? With 90 seconds left on the clock. Could be interesting if they have to end up having to do one more lap than they'd like. Oh, and this is not ideal. Zitello makes a little dive, and you can tell them Algarve desperate not to collide with any of these three. As he gets up the inside of 1, 2, and surely Rabidi as well is going to be cleared in quick succession there. So that was really the last chance from Algarve. Zitello going off track. 1 minute left to go. And a tense finish in prospect here. Rabiti looks like he lost a bit of momentum at that final corner. And Sequeira looking much closer than the lap before. Is there going to be a dive into Lagos? Ramon Rabiti cuts the inside, tries to cover it off, leaves the door open as he gets late on the brakes. And through goes Abel Sequeira. So the tyres just starting to run out on that Lexus. Zitello is going to fancy coming through. So late heartbreak for Simone Rabiti, who defends the inside into Torre Vip. Here comes Zitello. Zitello looking to the outside, is going to try and find a way through, finds the road blocked. Oh, and a bit of contact with the Lexus of Rabiti there. And this could well end up being the final lap. Then Rabiti holds his nerve around the inside, but it's Zitello going the long way round through Samsung. And finding again, it's not the quickest route. He finds the Lexus in the way. Oh, spin for Zitello. He just caught Rabiti way too quickly there, and now he's in the grass, facing the wrong way. And that's terrible luck for Zitello. It could let Pedro Ramada into 4th position. I don't think it has. I think Ramada's a little bit too far back. The clock has run out, though. Through the final couple of corners comes Christian Marguerre. He set it on pole position. He has dominated from the front, led every lap apart from the pit stops. And through Galp for the final time, Christian Marguerre christens our first race on Le Mans Ultimate with victory in the hypercar class. Congratulations to Christian Marguerre and to Simframe with Michele Rocon 11 seconds in arrears. Here comes Luca D'Amelio to win and secure victory in the GT3 class on his return. A brilliant performance, strategically outfoxing his competition from 3rd to pit later than anybody and reap the rewards for doing so. There is Abel Sequeira, who is able to get back into 2nd on the final lap, but a lot of contact after that great fight between himself, Rabiti, and Zitello. Of course, Zitello with that late spin, and Carlo Dianda failing to finish after being sent into the barriers by Sequeira. That could be controversial post-race. There we go. Everybody coming across the line now to finish. And, there is the 3rd man on the podium, Roman Marchand in hypercar. Gets the brightly coloured Smarties Toyota. Oh, nearly gets hit in the back by Ramada. But never matter. That is a podium first time out for the Frenchman. Who will be delighted with that performance. Nearly caught Rocon as well. Had a great fight out the pit stop there. But I think 3rd realistically was the best he could have hoped for. So great GT3 fight and some decent performance. A decent fight in hypercar. Especially the fight for 4th was very, very entertaining. So now might be a good time to look at the final results if the entire field is finished, and I believe they have. So in hypercar, after 48 laps, it's Christian Marguerre that wins, not by 0.3 of a second, but by 11 seconds. Roman Marchand, another good 10 seconds or so adrift in 3rd. Then it is Nicola Pastore, who fights his way up to 4th to beat Francesco Gardinetto. Great fight between those two. Paolo Penimpede, a couple of spins, means he has to settle for P6. And then Mika Hakimi, very messy day. He could well have been fighting for the podium. He ends up P7. Then in GT3, Luca D'Amelio gets the Mustang home in 1st position after 42 laps. Brilliant strategic call to finish 9 seconds ahead of Abel Sequeira, who changed tyres from pole position and had to fight his way back up to P2, just getting ahead of Simone Rabiti on the final lap, who holds on to beat Salvatore Zitello, who has a bit of a spin later on. Pedro Ramada, he had a bit of a quiet race, but defended well to finish P5 ahead of Marco Lodi-Ruzzini. Daniele Vidimari, tough start, but recovers up to P7 ahead of Michele Rizzo. Manuel Norris holds on to P9 from Frank van Ginneken, who rounds out the top 10. after a bit of difficulties for him. In P11 is Tobias Blumschein, speeding twice in the pit lane, costing him a chance of potentially finishing in the P5 or even on the podium. Nicola Pagani is P12. Andrea Gandosi completes our finishes in P13, but sadly, Carlo D'Anda was crashed out in a crash with Abel Sequeira. That means he does not make it to the checkered flag. And Ricky Jimenez spinning early on after a few incidents. Bad luck for the BMW there. That prevented what could have been a decent finish as well. So that is your lot then, as all of our hypercars and GT3s finishing. So only really 3 non-finishes then. A pretty decent finishing rate, but of course, the race was only 75 minutes, not the usual 6 to 8 hours that we have come to expect from Esports Endurance Series. So, for those interested, that was the first round in the books. I think we have got another round coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Which will be another 75-minute race on Le Mans Ultimate, of course, which is the new home for EEC and the E-Racing Series, of course. So, to wrap up then, thank you very much for watching. It is in 2 weeks, yep, and it's Monza. There we go. So the Italians are going to be right at home there, and we look forward to that one. So congratulations to Christian Malguer and Luca D'Amelio, the first winners in the new era on Le Mans Ultimate. I've been Edward Hunter. Very much for sticking with us. Same time in 2 weeks, we'll be back for more Le Mans Ultimate action. Don't miss it.